to such lengths, Camazotz. We've seen the Ratatasker as well. Variety has been on point this whole tournament.
Hey, let's not kid though. You know he still wants that tier if he's going to be able to get it. He's been on fire, but NRG as well opting for that tier as well, so it could be a contested pick.
You can't talk about one without the other. Dimi has a very similar God Pool. Tier is going to be a highly contested pick between these two. Raw, Nike, and Erlang Shun already taken off the table.
Well, we got a little bit of healing off the board with the Raw. Would not be too surprised to see some sort of a Sylvanas or Terra ban here. Been very typical. If not, one of those bans is going to be Zeus, which means we're probably going to have a first pick healer.
I feel that neither of these teams really even prioritize Terra. We've seen them prioritize the Sylvanas, allow the Terra to go through, look for any sort of cripple options, and this is probably why we've seen the Erlang Shen. Maybe it is going to be Obey taking away some of those root cripple options, which would counter the dash from Terra.
Of course, we also have the Zeus taken off the board. NRG not going to make that mistake. They have seen how effective it has been this tournament, and where I got the Sylvanas pick, he's been one of the most prioritized picks this entire tournament.
I'm already expecting, whatever happens this game number 2, Sylvanas is going to get banned. Whoever is going to be the second pick. I'm just like, this is going to be a highly contested pick.
Yaman hovering over that Janus right now. We've seen how effective he's been during this tournament. He has landed some through space and times, particularly in the LG match against Mask, where it took him completely out of the fight on Mercury.
He was the highlight, along with Emilito on the Chronos. Those two magical gods for NRG did so much work, and they already have it. But another comfort pick is going to be the Jingwei for Ataraxia.
We have a lot of highlight picks coming out now for both teams. NRG, of course, getting their Janus and Chronos, and now we have Ataraxia on his Jingwei. We have seen what he can do. I mean, he's playing at Barracuda levels in this tournament on this Jingwei.
You can't leave him alone in the dual lane. We're going to see probably some rotations, and just like we mentioned before, tier locked in for Variety.
Hey, just because you've increased your God pool to play other gods doesn't mean you shouldn't play your best god when all the money's on the line.
Come out the gate swinging, baby. That's what I say.
Capri being locked in for NRG. We're going to see Raffer do some work here. He's going to try to keep his carries alive.
It's amazing how both of these teams, while so similar in their play style, have drafted the exact comps that they have wanted all tournament.
It's just a remarkable feat to get to the grand finals. We're going to see such an evolution of these picks and bans. This is only game number 1. Vulcan, though, away from Pretty Prime. And without the Zeus and the Raw, we're going to probably see a Scylla here.
Yeah, we have a lot of options on the board. Scylla, we haven't seen too much Thoth play come out since the beginning of the tournament, but he's always on the board. I feel like people are forgetting he's pickable.
And Fenrir getting taken off the table, along with the Ratatasker, so it's taking that option away from adapting. But when you talk about adapting, you can't really ban him out. He has the Thor. He always can bring out any other choice that he wants.
Oh, adapting doesn't care what you ban on him. He probably loves seeing the ban. He gets hyped off that. He's like, try to target me out? Well, I got some crazy picks you're about to see.
But what if Obey wants him to go for that Thor?
That could be another option, especially if they have some way to peel him in the backline. We saw this one game, actually, earlier on in their set against Luminosity, where he was diving the backline very impatiently, but now Susanoo being hovered over and swapping to the Bologna. Dimi's been known to play Bologna very consistently.
Well, they already know what he's going to be going against in the solo lane. That tier is definitely going to be for Variety, so he had the option to pick for free there, and they can now save that pick for adapting for the very last to get his counter pick.
This reminds me actually of last year's Worlds, the solo lane matchup where it was usually Bologna, Tier, Xingqian, those kind of options, but Thanatos being hovered over. Do you think this gets locked in for Captain Twig?
Honestly, I like the pick. It's been working so well against Khepri this tournament, and because Kepri's been so popular, yeah, perfect. I say go for it.
That's what you have to do. Eliminate the opportunity for the Khepri revive with that Thanatos execute. And there goes the Scylla for Obey.
Scylla has a lot of setup in this composition as well. Sylvanas, root, pull, knockup, as well as tier knockup, Thanatos. There's so many things you can combine it with.
And just like that, you talk about adapting. There's your Thor, game number 1 in the grand finals.
I tell you, neither team couldn't have asked for a better draft on each side. It's really going to come down to who executes the best here, Tully.
And I'm expecting NRG to kind of play aggressive because it's adapting, and it's adapting on Thor. He always wants to get into the positions to invade buffs.
NRG has their comfort picks, but honestly, I'm really liking Obey's draft here. I've been liking the way they're playing all tournament. I think they need to come out strong, though, in game 1 if they want to take the best of 5.
So who gets this?
I'm actually going to give it to NRG here. They have the Giannis for Yaman. They have the Thor for adapting.
What about for
Obey
you?
game one, Ataraxia Jingwei.
Oh boy, the desk is split. Guys in the arena and at Coke theaters across the country, are you ready for game number 1 of the SMITE World Championship 2017? It's time to send it over to your casters, Hindu Man, Adonis, and Agro. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Golden Boy, and welcome everybody to the finals. Once a year, we get to celebrate SMITE as a community, as a company, and these players on the stage. And right now, there's only 10 left standing.
NRG taking on Obey, and honestly, looking at the beginning of the year in the European SPL, these seemed like unlikely finalists. NRG are not only the reigning world champions, but have seemed virtually unbeatable for over a year and a half.
And Obey was not that unbeatable team for most of the season, but since arriving here in Atlanta, they have looked unbeatable. They've rolled through almost every single opponent. Eager took them to 5 games, but ultimately Obey triumphed into the finals.
Well, we're down to 10 players, as I said, and on the bottom half of your screen, the left-hand side of your spectator UI, you will see Team Obey Alliance. Variety in the solo lane playing Tier in the jungle, Captain Twig on Thanatos. Pretty Prime will be your mid laner playing Scylla, as well as Panda-like and Ataraxia rounding out the duo lane on Sylvanas and Jingwei. And across from them, the world champions, NRG Esports. Starting at the top half of the map on the right-hand side of your spectator UI, we've got Dimmy in the solo lane, adapting in the jungle on Thor, Yamin on Yardis in the mid lane, and Rapper and Emelito, a dangerous duo lane for NRG.
Speaking of danger right now, both teams grouping up on the right-hand side. Depth side does connect onto Dimmy, who's still pushing forward. 3 members of NRG looking to invade onto the speed buff. Panda-Likes made the rotation.
But there is a 3v4 scenario here going on right now, and it's all about damage, getting a kill, and securing the area around it, not necessarily getting the buff right now.
There's a Wrath on both sides as well, so you can see Captain Twig, he has it on Obey, and then NRG, Dimmy's the one with the Wrath, so you can see them either fight or go for the buffs.
The dance is still going on. This Thanatos pick, very good in the early game with those death sides, but Panda-like, a little bit out of position. They're going to get abducted early on by Rathra, and the double tap from adapting. So far, no one has taken buffs.
He's going to be fine in this position, though. Panda-Like just going to be splitting with Pretty Prime. The question is, how does this recovery work for Obey on the right-hand side? Not a single buff has been taken, both speeds, both blues. How these teams react to this will be really telling, I think, who's going to hit those level 5s.
Well, the Elementals being looked at by both teams. They really want Captain Twig here. Fantastic double tap from adapting off the back of that abduction in the duo lane. We've still got action going on.
Ataraxia taking a ton of poke there, but you can see Emelito not going for the full boots this time, instead opting for that Vampiric Shroud. So despite investing a lot of mana early on, he should be okay right now.
Captain Twig gets saved there in that engagement on the right-hand side from Variety, the beautiful double Fearless, and that's exactly what we've come to expect from Variety on this tier. He has looked like one of the best, if not the best, solo laners in the world. And this matchup in the solo lane is one that I'm very closely watching.
The solo laners in this entire SMITE World Championship have really turned up. Not only Scary D for Luminosity, but Variety kind of had that same story. Not a lot of people respected his play. Very mechanically gifted, but didn't always operate the best.
In that matchup against Eager, it was all about Divios playing these Guardians. That's what everyone was talking about, but Variety was really the difference maker in that series for me. Really was the one who pushed Obey over the top.
With how this game has started, once again, it's going to be the Hunters and the mid laners that get a little bit more experience and will hit that level 5 a little bit earlier on. So the junglers, even though a little bit behind, but Captain Twig, not necessarily looking for a kill here, just looking to try and catch up on some farm.
And I really like actually putting pressure onto the solo lane. We've seen that a lot right now. Adapting, just splitting farm on the left-hand side. Ooh, Yaman getting low in the mid. But because these solo laners haven't really been investing into TP a lot, you can see Variety's gone it. But with Dimmy on Wrath, and honestly, the lack of potions he's had because of all this fighting, it's important to see Captain Twig come over, try and poke him out, and get Variety a lead.
Now, these two teams are scrim partners. They've said it themselves on the stage. They respect each other. NRG say they trained Obey. Is this going to be the master gets beat by the apprentice?
We could see it. I mean, with the way Obey is playing, like I mentioned earlier on, this isn't maybe the greatest mechanical team in the world. It isn't a team that's come in and beat everyone all year like NRG has, but this is what you see in long format tournaments like this. Obey is just hot. They're hot at the right time.
But NRG are so confident. Honestly, I think that match against LG was really eye-opening to them. They've been just so dominant all year and being able...
Ultimate early on here from Panda, like looking for some more aggression. The pull not going to hit Dimmy, however, but I do like the fact that we're seeing Panda like in this solo lane, and he's forcing Adapting to rotate to support. But where is Rafa? He's in mid.
But this is what we've seen from Panda like all weekend, basically. Just all over the map. Hasn't spent any time with Ataraxia in this dual lane, and that's why I like these god selections that our Ataraxia's gone for, these late game hunters, whether it's Chronos or Freya or this time Jingwei.
And also on the Jingwei specifically, her passive, she's able to use that flight out of base to relocate herself to a team fight in other lanes, whereas Emilito, he's going to have to take the long trip through the jungle.
Not too much onto Rafa really there. The death side did connect, but the silence not long enough to really allow his team to follow up with some good damage, but it will get him the right and half.
And we'll see a lot of interaction between Khepri and Thanatos in this matchup. That execute is going to go through the revive capabilities of Kepri's ultimate. You'll see these two brawling a lot.
Left hand Harpies being contested once more, and NRG in a dominant position for the time being as they stun Captain Twig with that abduct and silence just to allow them to secure it.
And Captain Twig needs to be careful of that chain CC capability that NRG has because he doesn't have the purification. He's gone for the wrap.
Basin time comes out, and that was from Yamin because he knows Dimmy was in a bit of an awkward position here, and he still is right now, but the portal will get him to safety, and Pretty Prime was looking for the big time ultimate, just a little off the mark.
Doesn't read it right there, but also a little bit lucky coming out from Dimmy. Obviously, that execute from Thanatos is going to be huge, but this early on, the percentage is not very high. Right now, NRG do have the ability, I think, to take fights with Thanatos, but they always need to be cognizant.
And that's what we've seen all weekend, is that Thanatos hasn't really had that early game impact that we're used to seeing from him. It's been in the late game whenever Hovering Death is maxed out, that 40% HP. That's all you have to get to before that execute will work.
Well, you saw there the side of Obey did manage to steal away the blue buff, catching Dimmy on the back. And once again, Panda like throwing out these grabs as often as possible.
And I love this aggressive play coming out from Obey. You can see the different 3v3s they have. Mostly it's going to be Panda-like on the Sylvanas along with Captain Twig, and either grouping up with Variety or with the Scylla in mid. They have so much sustain, also the protections coming out from Wisps. They really do want to fight and gain control of these Fire Elementals and these mid Harpies.
And that tells me that Obey is feeling comfortable up here in the World Final stage. I mean, you heard it right there in the interview with Variety. They haven't been even to Worlds before.
Nope.
Sure, Pretty Prime Ataraxia, they were in the finals of Season 1, but it's still been a long time. I like this early aggressiveness because of that as well.
But it's a cagey start to the game for me as well. I think it's this is the fact they are scrim partners. They know the ideas, the tendencies they like to go to. And in fact, they're actually allowing their team hold that ball.
This is trouble for Emilito right now, but a quick sidestep, and he's going to be able to back off of this. But Obey just continuously keeping up this pressure. Dimmy, very low mana right now. I don't think he has enough to ult away.
He's in real trouble right now. He's going to be careful of the Lawbringer. We are the law, says Variety. And he will claim first blood for Obey and Alliance. But Yamin on the rotation, looking to punish.
Nice backstep. Variety perfectly reading when that portal was going to come out. Gets the heal from the power cleave as well. Dimmy getting soloed for first blood in game 1.
This is what I was talking about. Variety is so strong.
Melito sees this coming. He's already backpedaling as fast as his legs will take him.
Nice.
Fantastic Sanctuary to absorb most of this damage. So at half health, when the rewind comes through, Twig goes back because he knows Emil's coming back with him.
He's going to be stunned. This is a lot of trouble, but Adapting comes down. Twig, he's going to get picked up, and now Ataraxia on full retreat has to airstrike away.
And the wall not going to hit, luckily enough. Otherwise, NRG could have taken their second kill of the game.
And that's just the global rotation from both junglers there. That's the power of having these semi-global ultimates. I like the fact that Obey was looking to get that rewind out from Emilito, but they have to be wary of that rotation from Adapting. Just too much time spent on that left-hand
You can see
side.
Obey really just trying to full combo Emilito there. Emilito knew what was going on. He was full health at the time, and so they were really just looking for that Hovering Death to set up for the stun and allow the Jingwei to get the knock-up into 100-0 him, but just the reaction time to hit that Sanctuary just as he comes down and just buys so much time to allow Adapting to rotate over and find the counter pick.
Well, right now on the graphs, you can see it's about 1,000 gold lead for Obey. I've been saying this all week, it feels like, because this team has really focused on the farming in the early stages of the game.
And I think this is how this game is supposed to go. You look at NRG's composition, and it really can't match up to this Thanatos Sylvanas in this really early game, especially in these small corridors. So instead, just focus on farming up and utilizing their global ultimates of both Thor and Giannis to look for picks.
Great ball, Melito with a scythe is Shredder. Captain Twig will take Emil's life. The space and time from Yamin is there to support again, but it's a little bit too late.
You called it earlier on. Panda just throwing out these grabs left and right. One finally finds a home and immediately turns into a kill. We knew the Sanctuary of Emilito was down from that previous gank on the left-hand side. Perfect execution by Obey.
And because of how strong Obey's team fights are, or excuse me, early 3v3s are, Panda is never going to get punished for these grabs. He's not in a position where NRG can really fight him, so there's literally no loss in him spamming those out, trying to set up for anything. It doesn't matter if he misses 7 in a row, because he's never going to be in a spot to get turned on at this point in the game.
This composition from Obey, for me, though, when I look at it, it's very balanced. The early game with the Thanatos, the Sylvanas, and then you've got Scylla and Jingwei for late, but the Golf Fury is gonna drop in seconds. Obey with a beautiful lead right now.
We've seen this time and time again from them all weekend, just finding the right opportunity.
Pulled in,
The ball
another
on
pull.
Rapper is good, but the Obstruct is even better. Unstable Vortex does good damage to Twig, but the sustain is there. But it looks like adapting once more.
And now, oh no, to the sky, no! Captain Twig can't make it,
Oh,
but adapting
adapting.
rooted under the tower,
One
taking
more
so
hit.
much poke, trying to turn it around, but he's not able to.
And it goes at
pushing forward.
Ataraxia. He's looking at Rapper. The enhance not enough to bring down the support player, but once again, a trade in the mid lane.
And I love what Emilito did there too at the end, just trying to find Panda on the back end.
Very, very nice job by Emilito. Just thinking about it, we saw him pick up, we saw some late pickups from him later on, or earlier on rather, up against Luminosity.
Well, right now it's 3-2. The goal lead, as you saw, is in favor of Obey. All down to the Golf Fury, the early game. The aggression from both these two teams is really obvious, but it's more energy reacting.
But again, it's them looking for Captain Twig because he doesn't have that purification, but the hovering death was perfectly timed from him, just not quite enough to get up into the air. I love the heads-up play, though.
Well, I will mention now, we're only 10 minutes in. Just keep an eye on those mid laners and those hunters. Look at their levels right now. They are hitting massive spikes because of the second relic.
And you can see actually Blink picked up for Pretty Prime as well. This has been a relic that's been debated heavily. Emilito, though, trying to pick off Panda.
Well, Panda's going to be hard to kill. Space and time fight for Yamin, looking for the kill. And Captain Twig, knowing his support's out, will fall back as well.
Adapting no ultimate, but still going to be chasing down Panda. Actually gets rooted and pulled back. Panda going to be able to get back to his tower. And a good positioning from Captain Twig and Pretty Prime there.
Well, look at
near
this
the red buff.
variety. Comes over, Blink Fearless, hits Yamin, forcing him to purify as well.
And those are the blinks are going to come up huge for Obey later on. They're going to need some engage because Sylvanas, if he's not going for that blink, it means you're really lacking in that support department. And with the focus that Panda has been taking in this game, you expect him to get another defensive relic like a sprint.
Oh, Captain Twig.
But in the mid lane, Captain Twig, isolated by the wall and the portal, good enough for energy to answer back once more, and now look towards the speed.
And this is actually enabled because Panda was pressured out on that left-hand side by adapting. He stayed because he had the sustain, but this just enabled that one-man advantage. They pick off Captain Twig in the mid, and then Obey cannot stop that speed buff invade.
Two members left-hand side, however, going very aggressive on this tier 2 ult for ult trade. Ataraxia, though, going to walk into Yamin, and Yamin gave him a good tasty treat in response, and here comes Thor.
Looking for one, and it's going to be on top of Ataraxia. Sanctuary's going to buy him some time adapting, turning over to the Sport. Pretty Prime blinks forward, but he misses the Sikkim.
The wall just blocked him, and now Panda likes one hit from death. I'm a Monster hits 2, but it's not enough damage just yet to stop energy continuing to gain momentum.
And that's the problem with Sylvanas. He does so much for you in the early game. He does so much for you in the mid game, but he's always vulnerable to these immobile ganks.
Yeah, adapting and Yaman, we talked about it earlier. Obey has a great 3v3, but they're not really able to match that quick global pressure that Yaman can bring out, teleporting his team over. Also in that situation, Panda, unfortunately, burning the shell too late. Just as the unstable vortex hits, that's when the shell was popped, the threshold goals, and we just see NRG hold their abilities, waiting for the shell to end, and then picking them off.
And it's very clear to me that Obey is focusing this left-hand side, looking for Emilito again and again, but that time they used two ultimates. They used both the Sylvanas ultimate and Jingwei's ult, and then it was just all immune by that rewind from Emilito, setting up that entire sequence of events.
And that's why it's going to be so incredibly important for Obey to synergize all of their abilities, because NRG, once again, going for this composition of sustain.
Rapid does hit, followed by a crush and an ult from Panda, but Yamin once again going to give a portal to Rafa to get away. The execute threshold wasn't there for Twig, and so Rafa will survive.
Dimmy's made the rotation as well, and he's going to ult forward. Panda like still caught up, adapting to the sky, looking for Twig.
And now Twig's in a lot of trouble too. The root is big, but still Yamin comes up big. A double kill for the guy who got MVP last year.
1v1
on the
Ataraxia.
left-hand side. Ataraxia's focused on. I guess who's waiting?
Perfect.
It's adapting with the wall.
Perfect read.
Nowhere to go for Ataraxia there. Forced into the ultimate, but like you mentioned, Kevin, adapting, exactly knew where to be. His map presence is one of the things that makes him the best player in the world.
And on top of that, that's one weakness of Jingwei, is that airstrike has a little bit of a wind-up time. It takes a decent amount to get up to the sky, and if your team can be aware of that and you don't have to worry about other rotations, you can read where that Jingwei is going just by looking at the direction he's looking at.
Now these kills aren't necessarily getting NRG gold, but what it is doing is closing the experience gap here. By removing the enemy gods from the map over and over again, it's denying them getting that vital farm to get to the later stages of the game.
And the one who's getting to the later stage of the game is Emilito on this Chronos. We've seen him on it again and again, and he's just looked so unbelievably strong. That's why Obey has put that focus onto him in the left-hand side. But if it's not working, that's just getting ML more and more farm. That's exactly what's happening.
We saw a big fight in the solo lane there between the two, and I think that's them getting a little bit more confident about not getting ganked, adapting. Forced to Purify, forced to Purify and ult back to safety.
But I love the invade coming out from adapting there. Quick reaction from Obey to collapse on their speed buff, but adapting's going to be able to do this pretty easily. He needs to be a little bit more careful though, because that Thanatos Death Scythe is starting to hit incredibly hard. Runic Shield picked up as well, so Captain Twig going to be really hard to lock down and have a ton of chase potential.
Seems very important to make sure they keep shutting down the speed buff of Captain Twig, especially with that shield of regrowth.
And even with the fact that Thanatos is really shining in the later stages of the game, it doesn't change the fact that his kit is geared towards the early stages. You have that free penetration from the second ability. Death Scythe is going to hit about as hard as any ability in the game early on. I like the focus onto his speed buff.
One thing we're going to have to worry about for Obey's team comp overall, though, is that the later this game goes, they don't really have a ton of hard engage. They don't have that blink, they don't have that dash forward and taunt, and so Panalike actually might have to invest into it, because you can't have Captain Twig going in and forcing the initiation.
And I almost think that's one of the reasons we see pretty prime with the blink, but hold that, Variety a little bit overextended here, and adapting is here with a fantastic Eagles rally. Variety two-man, you know, hits two, peace out, bro, I'm back to safety.
And that's now two players, Variety and Emilito, for their teams doing great job of fading and buying time. Gold Fury going to be started up, Rapper on top of it. Scarab's blessing onto himself, and he does get reset.
He was too early. Luckily, Panda likes there to clean it up. The dot damage up. Emilito. Yamin hits two, and here comes adapting as well. The wall pins him in place. Adapting gets one. Panda gets adapting, but Yamin once more. I'm going to say his name all game.
Wrathson gonna make sure Variety stays off of that, but so unfortunate for Captain Twig. The Scarab's blessing coming out so early on top of Rapper. He knew the burst was gonna be there, and Captain Twig just, it must have been less than 0.5 seconds off. If he gets that execute, he's able to not only kill Rapper, but stay alive in that fight with huge amounts of sustain.
But that's the whole reason you're picking the Thanatos, is to counter the Khepri ultimate, and if that's not gonna happen, then Obey's gonna have a tough time handling this, because we saw it up against Luminosity, giving Emilito 3 lives effectively. His initial health bar, rewind, and then Khepri ult was just too much to handle.
And it's not only that, I mean, the ultimate from Dimmy gonna give his team so many protections when he goes into that Eagles rally, and then adapting so much mobility in that Thor's kit, and then Yaman, the threshold to not only speed up his team, slow the enemy's team. NRG have so many options to extend team fights. Obey really need to coordinate that execute.
Obey needs Captain Twig to look like he did in Game 5 up against Eager. Right now, Twig has 5 deaths already. I know that the focus has been onto his speed buff from adapting, but he just hasn't been on point with those ultimates yet. I'm looking at him if Obey is going to turn it around.
And the key with them actually keeping him shut down in terms of level here is also it keeps that execute threshold a little bit lower, which means you've got to get him lower in health with a more chance to sustain back up.
Obviously, Thanatos is great in the early game, but he really needs to snowball hard, and then he becomes basically an ult bot the later the game goes. I'd expect him fully to go into more of a protection style build, but because he's almost been the sacrificial lamb, he's been very aggressive in these 3v3 fights, but if someone dies, it's him. Going back again to that Wrath pickup early on. When he gets locked down, there's not much he can do about it, and there's so much control coming out from NRG, the portals from Yaman, also Raffer with multiple lockdown options.
Yaman's actually been the one doing the damage. It hasn't even been about the portals. He's sitting at 4-0-3, top of the player damage charts as well. Someone from Obey needs to check the mid laner from NRG.
Wow, someone needs to check Variety right now because he's been attemptedly pressured twice now by adapting and not really looked too concerned. But Obey heading back towards the Gold Fury.
And they're going to be starting this up. Pulled in onto iRapper, rooted in place, immediate scare, blessing. Emilito's in deep as well.
Oh,
The monster off the mark.
I know it was only off the mark because Yamin's portal once again stays Space and time hits Ataraxia. Shell was late. Adapting comes down and he's looking for Ataraxia. But once again, the portal's getting him out. Ataraxia will live for now. And now,
Prime's in
meanwhile, the
trouble.
mid lane's pretty prime. Running
Again,
right through
the portals.
Yamin is having a game of his life for the World Championships right now. You
Panda
can
like
just see he's putting energy on his back.
2 players picked up it again. Rotation from Variety at the end of the fight. He hasn't been this impactful player. He's been very slow to make it. His teleport was actually down, unfortunately. But Captain Twig, this is worrying coming out from him. He's ulting very aggressively. And again, going back to, there's really no good engage onto Obey. So Captain Twig has to be this frontliner. And now that he's behind, he's just getting blown up so quickly. Either has to back out of the fight or just wait and bait energy in.
The focus for Obey has been onto iRapper, and every single one of these fights, he's been pulled in, rooted by Pretty Prime, but the execution hasn't been there, and I mean that literally. The execute needs to be there from Captain Twig. That time it was I'm a Monster that was a little bit off the mark, but even that would have gotten reset by the Khepri ultimate. Captain Twig needs to be up in the air as the CC chain is happening, not waiting until he's almost dead.
And Captain Twig now going for a Titan's Bane. I would really like to see him start bridging into defensive items at this point. He's level 14, he's so far behind. He's the same level as iRapper. Sure, you can be in the fight, but you're just not doing that much damage at this point.
Plus, you're already getting 35 free penetration from Scent of Death. There's really not that need for this much penetration in the build.
Well, right now between the two teams, it's relatively even overall at 20 minutes in the game. One goal through went the way of Obey earlier on. The experience, though, we talked about earlier on how it was Obey in the lead. It's now NRG.
And that's just because Obey haven't been able to keep up the pace coming into the mid game. They had a great fight, they have a ton of damage, great sustain with the Sylvanas Wisp as well, but now that Adapting's online, same with Yaman doing so much damage, and we haven't really talked about Yaman too much outside of the actual fights, but his portals have been phenomenal.
He's using his portals aggressively, though, and Obey needs to recognize that. Whenever a Giannis is using those portals to try and banish you from the playfield, that's his escape. That's the same as using a dash to engage.
But that's what's so hard about that, though, because they do have the Khepri rewind to keep him alive regardless. This Khepri pick from NRG, they've been playing it so great throughout this tournament.
Well, you saw the aggression between the two hunters there in the duo lane, and immediately Adapting was over there looking to pressure. However, the ward's placed down by Obey just in that left-hand side. You can see that they knew exactly what was going on.
And for me, the standout player for NRG thus far throughout the entire weekend has been Emilito. I mean, he has looked so good, even up against Barracuda, who for my money was playing like the best hunter, if not the best player in the world up until right now. Emilito was absolutely dominant in that series, was the difference maker in Game 5 for NRG.
Once again, Adapting to look to pressure the right-hand side, or at least relieve pressure from what Variety constantly is creating on this tier.
And Variety has been doing a very good job in this lane, and that's why we see Dimmy actually hanging out here. He wants to keep Variety from teleporting into his team fights. He knows that NRG's been winning the 4v4 engagements. No reason to let them get one of their star players in there.
I 100% agree. Variety has not been an impact in any of these team fights. When we do see him come, it's after the fight's already over, and NRG just have way too much mobility across their kits that they're able to just get away from him, no issue.
And that's going to be the difference as we get later in the game. These solo laners will join the rest of the team. And with Captain Twig, he said he needs to be a forefront. Being behind by a level right now to adapting, it's going to be more responsibility onto Variety in this game.
He's basically going to be their secondary engage at this point. Captain Twig can't be in the front line. Also, Panda, like, he's picked up a shell and a sprint, so he doesn't have that hard engage. They were really relying early game on the Sylvanas pulls more than anything. They don't really have a way to chase into NRG. I think at this point, Obey need to switch up their game plan. They need to start playing defensively and bait NRG into them.
Absolutely, and you have to look at Pretty Prime as being the actual engage tool. You're looking at him to find a 2 to 3 man Sikkim from a distance as NRG is trying to push up. The problem is that NRG doesn't have that composition where it just runs at you. They've got through space and time. It's not going to be running at you down a lane. It's going to be running at you through walls.
Well, the gold lead grew a little bit there for Obey. In the right-hand side, Variety did manage to take a tier 1 tower down for himself, but those towers have both been equaled out as time has gone on.
And right now, I do want to see both solo laners rotate. Variety, he's not going to be able to just split push into a tier 2, and I don't expect Dimmy to be pushed that far up on the right-hand side either. They need to get a part of this action. Variety has been such an impact player for Obey across the tournament. I think he's been the best solo laner in this tournament by far.
And I love the call from Variety and Twig there. We know Captain Twig's behind in experience, only level 17 now, so they give him the blue buff experience on his own while Variety farms and then rotates the speed and gets that solo too.
Plus, if you look at the itemization of the two solo laners, it's Variety in a better position to come in and make an impact in these team fights. He's got the magical protection, whereas Dimmy has only built physical protection and a little bit of health from that winged blade. So you could see Pretty Prime really try to make an impact on Dimmy.
And a lot of that too is I think Variety is going to be focusing on Emilito in these fights. We saw him on Chronos versus LG. He was left unchecked way too many times in fights.
And because of that, I'd like to see him finish off the Spirit's Robe or Mantle of Discord, whatever he's going for, and finish off the build with a Runic Shield. That anti-attack speed and taking away some of that magical power is exactly the item Variety needs to stick onto Emilito.
But we saw energy groups around the Gold Fury there, just clearing out the wards, getting control, and with their position, they're now able to group as 5 in mid, put a bit of tower pressure on as well.
And you can see Variety has made the rotation. NRG's just going to take what they have, but adapting, pulled back in, does manage to hammer out, but his purification has been forced.
Very good mechanics there, because he purified as the hammer was in the air to make sure he could jump to it and get the furthest distance and not have it cancelled out.
But now this means adapting can't be in the forefront, looking for those wall-hammered pokes combinations. You'll see him sit in the back just like this.
Rapper caught out a little bit here, and Pandalike takes a double tap to the face.
But Rapper's quite tanky now. With space and time hits Pandalike, and Dimmy's in there too. The tree's a little bit low right now, but he will get his ultimate off. Left-hand side, the West alone. He's going to get out. Meanwhile, the portal will get Rapper safe, but Pandalike is in the Gold Fury pit, and he will be the first to fall.
Obey, they've got to get out. Variety knows this as well. I love what he does. Turns around. Fearless's energy away, but this is going to be a Gold Fury attempt, and honestly, I don't see how Obey's going to stop it. Pretty Prime has no ultimate right now. He knows it too. Good reaction from Captain Twig. You can see on that mini-map in the top right, going and taking some buffs in trade.
You're absolutely right. No way for Obey to come in and contest that Gold Fury, so Captain Twig looks to find farm elsewhere on the map. This isn't good for Obey, but they're by no means out of this game. We're sitting 25 minutes in, and the gold lead is minimal for NRG.
I don't understand what went wrong in the team fight, though, because Ataraxia had 3 members on him, and yet Pandalike is still dying in the Gold Fury pit.
Captain Twig missed his ult. Again, Rapper was in execute range. Captain Twig couldn't find it.
Captain Twig needs to step up. I mean, he's had such a great showing on Nike, but now he's on Thanatos, and this is a god where it's very easy to miss skill shots. He is an incredibly mechanically intensive god. You need to not only connect those depth sites, but your positioning has to be perfect when you invest into that Wrath early on.
I mean, Captain Twig is one of the most experienced, he's the most experienced European LAN player.
Correct.
He's been to every LAN, the only European to say that, but he's never been in a World Finals in this sort of environment.
But at the same time, we saw his nerves yesterday. Wait a second, bit of a man fight and dueling once more between Emilito and Ataraxia. I'm surprised I'm saying that because Ataraxia generally
adapting.
as a passive player.
Is he in the sky right now? He is, and he is going to find Ataraxia right on the edge. Ataraxia forced to airstrike away, but Obey rotates 4 members over to the right-hand side in the meantime.
Rafa going to try and give him some protections and help Dimmy out a bit. The crush did hit. The ult very early from Rafa there.
Pulled back.
But he's still going to get pulled away from the pull.
Oh, he got out.
Left side.
Twig
There
finds
we
it.
go. Twig finds the execute. One man. But left-hand side, this is going
On
on.
the monster.
They're getting the tier 2 tower. Rafa falls down. But 2 towers on the left go as well.
Absolutely beautiful play from Pandalike. Rooting Dimmy right before he can get to the portal, then pulling him away from it. It just bought so much time. They were able to get that extra damage off, and now Obey starting up this Fire Giant, knowing 2 members of Energy were on the left-hand side.
This is way around the corner. It's Captain Twig. Making sure Yamin is forced back to Fire Giant. Getting very low, but adapting here. Looking for the steal. But Obey Alliance, they claim the first Fire Giant in the SMITE World Finals.
5 members all have it as well. Pretty Prime being the engage there onto Raffer towards the end of that engagement. You can see even if Captain Twig didn't find his first few ultimates, finds the big one onto Dimmy in that engagement, and then the heads-up play to wait around the wall. Not only did he predict that Yaman was going to use that wall portal, but exactly the angle. I mean, he came out face to face.
Now, I want you all to be excited about the kills that you've seen and the Fire Giant and Obey, but look at the gold between the 2 teams. Energy did get 2 towers on the left-hand side, and overall, it's all about towers and Phoenixes to win SMITE.
But this 1,500 gold that Energy is in the lead is sitting waiting for Obey to take on the map. This isn't gold that they've gotten from killing players and stealing away buffs. This is all gold sitting waiting, and with 5 members of Fire Giant for Obey, there's no better time to push the towers.
There's 5 towers up. They also have the Sylvanas, an incredibly powerful god for sieging. And I think that Obey are really going to be focusing on grouping up here and doing just that. And you can see Energy. This is what they love to do if they feel like they're in a position that they're behind. This is also enabled by their double globals. They're going to be split pushing as well, trying to knock down those 2 tier 2 towers in mid and right-hand side, and just allow Obey to almost over-group on the left.
Exactly, there won't be much fighting right now. It's all about position, tactics on the map, trading towers equally, and Energy are one of the best at doing that. They're trying to go for the Phoenix in the right potentially, but they've got to watch the one on the left as well.
Variety just going to be sitting in this jungle, making sure that Energy is not going to be able to walk into that Phoenix for free. And he is going to find Emilito deep in the jungle. Rewind!
That goes through. The ultimate's still alive for Emilito. The donkey's good from Twig. Eagles running for protection. Deep. Goodbye, Emilito. We do thee well.
Absolutely beautiful play again. Variety, the shining star of Obey this entire tournament, reads that absolutely perfectly. Emilito, sliver of health left, gets the rewind. You assume he's gonna get out, but then Variety just blinking forward after he got isolated by Captain Twig, pushes him into the tower.
And we talk all the time about how these are scrim partners. These guys train for this. There was only 2 EU teams, so they could only scrim each other. But what is actually allowed is for them to notice the normal rotations of the team. And right now, the crowd is behind Obey. They are underdogs here, and they're looking for a second Phoenix.
Right into the back line again, finding 2, fighting 1 versus 3, while the rest of his team just deals with the Phoenix. Twig in the sky and Obey, they get 2 Phoenixes, and they're just gonna take their victory and back off.
Obey just looked like a well-oiled machine. They know exactly what Energy is gonna do. Like you mentioned, they're scrim partners. They've seen this before, and I love the decision-making to go and fight them. Energy is split pushing you to not fight you because you have that Fire Giant, because they don't feel like they have the advantage. So Obey takes the fight to them, and it's Variety frontlining it yet again.
And you mentioned it, Aggro, there. You talked about the gold lead was waiting to swing back, and it just did. Especially with the Phoenixes and that Gold Fury too. Obey have a lot of money in hand, gold in hand on the bottom left of your screen. They're going to go back, spend that, and invest in items.
Absolutely huge pickups. We can see Captain Twig finishing his build, getting that Bulwark of Hope to make him a little bit more tanky on the front line. On top of that, switching out his boots into Warrior Taba, getting a little bit more power. And then Deathbringer has just been completed for Ataraxia as well. This is as strong as he's ever going to be in this game.
And we saw those crits coming in huge on Emilito, almost killed him before that rewind even went off. So Ataraxia has had an absolute excellent late game, and I look to see him continue it now.
This next fight, Captain Twig needs to be incredibly on point with that execute, and Variety, again, needs to be sticking on Emilito. We know what Emilito can do when he's left untouched in a fight. He's got full build right now. That's the only thorn that could hurt Obey here.
Now, on the minimap at the bottom of your screen, you can see where it says cons, consumables, and there's not a whole lot of wards that NRG have there. Obey has just warded up the whole jungle and still have more available. This bonus gold is being put to good use controlling the map.
Variety actually banning a lot right now, 1 versus 3. Twig around the corner, and this is just forcing NRG into the jungle as Ataraxia split pushes that tier 2 on the right-hand side.
Just looking for a little bit more gold as the jungle
nice spin.
link there from Variety was good, but adapting spin that you saw, it will stop him from being knocked off.
Giving him that knock-up immunity is going to be huge against Variety. Always needs to be careful. Panda misses the grab, and he's going to get isolated.
He's isolated right now. His Panda to Variety dives in on Yamin. Yamin is being forced out back to safety. Adapting, meanwhile, up in the sky, has to come down. But Yamin deletes Panda.
Right
the
now,
fight is Emilito, and he will take out Prime. No, I'm a monster here, big boy. Rapido buying time for his team, as now Variety has the whole of energy to deal with. Emilito falls to Twig, and now Ataraxia trying to push on.
He's 1 versus 3 right now. You can see NRG a little bit too poked out. They're going to retreat, but a great hold coming out from NRG. They lose Emilito, but they trade out for Pretty Prime and Panda. And again, that's one of the big things. Early game, the Sylvanas is not going to be under any duress when he's throwing out those hooks because NRG couldn't fight into him. But this late in the game, because he plants himself, just adapting, finds the perfect wall to keep away from the rest of his team.
Dimmy looking for the steal. He's on his own 1v3. Man versus the world, but
he has a wrap.
Too.
He can steal it.
NRG get the fire giant, and into the sky go both jugglers. Dimmy falls, but he'll be happy with the results.
Fire Giant on 3 players, that's a huge win. Sure, they lose a couple members there, but just a great job from Dimmy with that Wrath, and Obey just not giving respect to it. The Wrath was on Captain Twig, but it was used earlier in that fight. They needed to make a decision right there. Either drop the Fire Giant or kill Dimmy. They just waffled too much.
Very odd decision, exactly. Obey just couldn't seem to find the call, and it looked like some of them wanted to attack Dimmy, but the Fire Giant stayed leashed because Dimmy was on it himself. Dimmy would have had to run away if that Fire Giant was getting dropped.
And a perfect time for that fight to go on. You could see the Phoenix is just respawning, going to give the Titan a little bit of regen, but Obey are grouped up in perfect time for this.
And now they're still trying to siege this down, but not many members really hit just yet. No more fire minions available in the mid lane right now.
Yaman caught!
Gonna get the juggle with the Fearless, but the Sanctuary will buy him some time. Twig wants him though, but now he's not gonna find him. He's gonna think about going in.
And he's gonna land right on top of Emilito, who's still in the front line through space of time, connects on a Penalite, and adapting to the back line. He's up in the air right now, trying to pick his target, and it's gonna be on top of Pandalite.
But he immediately goes out and forces Pandas up. Then Dimmy comes in with the Eagles rally. The tree will fall. The Phoenixes will stand. NRG can rest for a moment. The Phoenixes are going to get a reprieve. This Fire Giant is giving them that chance.
Huge hold. I love the start of that fight. Variety loops around. Yaman has absolutely no idea he's there. He gets pushed against the wall, but the Sanctuary immunes so much damage. And you can see Captain Twig thought that was going to do a little bit more. He took to the sky. Yaman portals into his own base, and at that point, Captain Twig can't dive that deep, and that execute was just wasted too early in the fight.
But Variety is staring at Yemen, just like he did last fight. We saw him go over the top of the speed buff wall, looking for the Fearless onto Yemen, but Yemen is in the team fighting mage. He's the Giannis poking in, poking out. Yes, those unstable vortexes are doing a lot of damage, but someone needs to be on Emilito. He's the real threat right now.
And right now, because of that fight, NRG going to be able to push down. Pandalite, the only one dead. You can see a couple members of Obey just backing. They want to defend this right now. NRG, this is not going to be an easy push for them.
Dimmy going to tank this one up, but there's Variety trying to slow it down once more. However, on the front side, Twig forced to purify away. But the damage from these mages is starting to get a little bit more now. We're approaching later game. The items are coming online, which means the mages in mid can really start to shine.
And you can see Captain Twig right now just trying to buy so much time, but it's adapting there with a great stun
Emilito
to the sky.
Not gonna find
Emilito in the middle lane.
Yeah, look where Emilito is, right in the middle. He's backdooring a Phoenix.
Oh, beautiful.
And she get a Phoenix for free there. Cheeky, cheeky play.
Oh!
And now Prime will live with one hit. Through
Yaman
space
wants
and time. Yaman's chasing. Variety denies that option, however. But now round the back comes Timmy. And the hottest of blinks comes through. Energy, push on, obey. They're in tatters right now. They're in trouble. The front line is isolated. It's 3 with the damage dealers forced to retreat.
Variety doing everything he can in this fight to try and peel for his team, but Panda gonna take a different path from everyone else. He's gonna be forced back, and it's gonna be Obey on the back foot once again. They lose Panda so still 4 members alive, but Imelito just playing that perfectly. Obey just start channeling up mid after they got that successful defense, and Imelito reads it so well, just walks around the corner, sneaks away the Phoenix.
That whole fight changes as soon as Pretty Prime gets hit by through space of time. Without that mage there, that chase is safe for Energy to continue. Yemen may not have gotten the kill, but he certainly changed the fight.
Energy want to try and backdoor this Phoenix now. They have no minions coming with them for quite some time. And by hanging around here, it's given them an opportunity for OA to respawn, because they're going to have to force it if they're going to, and the Fire Giant has just worn off.
That thing's in the sky right now. Ataraxia is going to see it, but still get hit, has to airstrike away as Variety zones out the back line. Hovering death right now, but Energy, they're so healthy. The execute's not going to be there. Captain Twig, that ultimate has been baited out so many times. Energy doing a fantastic job.
Very, very cagey from the two teams right now. It's gone back and forth this game over and over again. Obey with advantages, then it was Energy, then it was back to Obey, and after that Fire Giant that went down, Energy has started to control the pace, the tempo of this game.
And that's because of the Chronos late game. You can see Emelito, he's been sitting on 6 items for a while, near the top of the player damage charts. It's been him and Yaman, the 2 mage players for NRG Esports, are just making the difference right now.
I want to go back to what you said earlier, where no one is sticking on to Imelito. Variety seems to have switched his attention to Yaman, but the thing is, Yaman hasn't been dying. He's actually been able to just buy time with his Sanctuary, portal out of a team fight, and then through space and time afterwards. We haven't really seen Energy use that to start a fight. They've actually used it after Obey initiate into them, and Energy reset and then push forward.
And that's one of the greatest strengths of Giannis, is he's so hard to find in the jungle. If you're fighting in the jungle like Energy have really been trying to do, he's got so many options to get away with those portals.
Well, right now, the dance of the Fire Giant has begun. This one will probably be for the whole game. Now, Dimmy's going in aggressive, forcing Pretty Prime back, and Variety too. The Fearless was there for damage, but also to disengage.
And Obey shouldn't fight this again. They need to be playing this a little bit defensively. They need to play exactly how Energy have been playing earlier. Just bait out adaptings or Dimmy's ultimate. You really don't want to fight into this ton of chaos, and Obey are just going to back up. Honestly, at this point of the game, they could probably give up Fire Giant.
And we've seen them win without Fire Giant in defenses as well, so I absolutely agree with you. Even Obey could look to just back up and defend.
And who's going to start this fight for Obey? It's been Variety who's forced the initiation.
Rafa's good. That's going to force his ultimate. Not going to get executed. I'm a monster. Only on Dimmy, but Dimmy took on 2
Twig misses again.
Well, Twig misses ultimate again. And now Twig's in trouble. He needs help, but so does Dimmy. Adapting is here, however, and he's going to pick up Panda and manage to make it a 1-for-1 for now.
Twig, there's no way he's going to survive this. 1 versus 3. It's going to be Imelito picking him up, and Raffer just bugging around, just buying time, distracting Variety. He's not able to get to the aid of his jungler.
No. Variety is distracting Energy because they're trying to get the Phoenix in mid lane to respawn. Variety and Pretty Prime just have to buy time. They don't want Energy doing the Fire Giant. They don't want them sieging the mid lane. Variety is doing what he's done for this team all season and trying to just buy them moments.
But now this is not good for Obey. Look at their respawn timers. They're so staggered at this point. 25 seconds on Panda, 35 on Captain Twig, and 60 for Variety. They're not going to be able to group up and farm right now. They have to play defensively. I'm actually really surprised we didn't see Energy pick up that Fire Giant right there. They have so much ward vision. There's actually not a single ward for Obey on the map right now at 41 minutes.
But Variety does have that teleport up, so whenever he does finally respawn 40 seconds from now, he'll be able to get into the fight as long as Obey is able to put down a ward in that jungle.
And as we said earlier as well, Energy, they bought time to get their Phoenixes back up. Well, Obey, they have bought time themselves. With Ataraxia and Prime here, Energy have to be a little bit respectful of doing the Fire Giant, but it does look like Obey are happy to give it up.
I love this from Obey. At this point, you're so late into the game. Your entire team basically has their full builds outside of what I'm assuming is going to be a Spear of Desolation for Pretty Prime's last item. Just give this up. Bait Energy into fighting you. And again, Captain Twig's ultimates need to start connecting. He has had almost 0 impact past 6 minutes.
And like you said at the very beginning, Kevin, Obey is lacking engage here, and that's why going in, baiting Energy into them is the way to do it. Pretty Prime has been sitting in the back, looking for those long-range routes. That's the best way for Obey to win a team fight. We've seen how much damage that Crush can do. It hit Yaman for something like 1,000 damage. All they need is for Pretty Prime to find one game-changing route.
And honestly, Energy, it will be hard for them to force fights on Obey. Sylvanas is actually one of the best counter-initiation gods in the game. That ultimate going to be able to knock up so many players that are diving onto his backline. The Wisps and the Shell, a lot of protections, a lot of healing, and then just allow Variety to distract Imolito. Tyr's not the best god against Chronos, but Variety doesn't need to kill him. He just needs to make sure that Imolito can't dive into the fight.
Well, we mentioned respawn time is because of the fact the longer the game goes, the more they impact the game as well. But also the itemization, everyone is full build pretty much. And because of that, it means gold doesn't mean anything either. It's all about individual skill, or rather, skill as a team.
This patience from Energy is due to the fact that Yaman's actives are still down. They're waiting for those relics to come back up. We've seen Variety be he's been the focus of Variety for most of these last few team fights. Energy's just waiting those last few seconds so that Yaman can protect himself.
And Energy are going to play this safe, I'm assuming. Try and bait out some relics. You want to get those purifications early.
Ooh.
Good pull there. Going to actually pop that, and Variety to the back.
But he doesn't manage to find the Fearless he was after. Panda, like, however, did a lot with the ultimate, but instead he's very low himself. The bludgeon, but the protections are keeping him standing. Execution style from Captain Twig comes down. For a kill, but still Obey hold their base. The middle Phoenix falls. One in the back.
1 for 1 on the mid laners there, and great job by Pandalike at the start of that fight, popping his sprint. A giant tree, and no one on Energy could hit him when he was less than 10% health. He ran around in circles, juked everything coming out from Energy, and just bought so much time for his team. Energy do get the Phoenix in mid, but just that with a Fire Giant, huge win for Obey.
Especially because that Phoenix was already weakened. It's not like they even had time to really punch down a full health Phoenix. And you mentioned how hard it was for Pandalike to fall there. It's because of that Lotus Crown that we see him pick up. Not only are you getting extra protections from Wisps in general, but that Lotus Crown giving you those extra protections during the healing. I like this pickup from Pandalike.
Well, the problem for both these two teams, we talk about momentum in long, extended games for a lot of times. And in the best of 5 scenario, game 1 going 45 minutes. If you lose this game, you are going to be demoralized, and you have to pick yourself up for game 2.
And it's been it's honestly been great performance from both teams. Not only at the early game, Obey just abusing their team composition to invade, getting a 1 to 2,000 lead, but Energy playing it passively, utilizing Yaman's ultimate to get his team in and out, and also try and find picks slowly. You can see Pandalike 1, 9, and 7. He just kept getting shut down repeatedly. Same with Captain Twig, but Obey are able to hold out. If Obey, like, Captain Twig here, he needs to be the factor and get a huge execute.
Without a doubt. Oh, through space of time coming for him. It's gonna find him
as well. The Eagles rally too, but into the sky he goes, looking to buy himself time. Adapting is up, looking to reinitiate on to Captain Twig if he can find him in time. Pretty Prime is so low around the back, forced to I'm a monster. The extra mobility will buy him a second, but Energy, they're closing the gap on Obey.
3 baited ultimates there. Captain Twig caught in the jungle, has to hovering death. Then I'm a monster used defensively by Pretty Prime. And then Airstrike. Energy are baiting absolutely everything.
But Emilito, no help. Prime picks him up. Next on the list is Waffer. They can't find the pull, but they'll find the Fearless Power Cleave combo. The ultimate wasted by Waffer on himself. He's a sacrificial lamb right now. Gonna buy a little bit of time for his team to disengage.
Right?
Obey.
No.
Right?
No.
He's gonna die.
Okay.
That could have been awkward.
I was waiting, and then finally, we've seen so many escapes this tournament. I actually thought Raffer was going to get out.
And how many Fire Giants have we seen so far? I mean, we're going to see another one now. It's about to spawn between the two of them. and it could go either way once more. This Fire Giant could be the difference between the win and the loss.
And the Fire Giant's up in 15 seconds, whereas Emilito's not responding for another 30. Obey, not even waiting for that. They've looked, Variety looking for Yaman, but Yaman was just sitting there waiting to bang.
And now he's not there to defend this mid.
The impression is the Phoenix is looked at, adapting to the sky, though wants Prime. And he will get Prime as well. Space and time and Eagles rally, cancelled out by Pandalite. Adapting falls down.
The Fearless!
Next on the list is Dimmy. Dimmy running, but Execution comes through. Obey, they could end the game here. Obey, they could take game one. Obey, they could do something they have never done before. That is take a game of the world champions. NRG.
Absolutely perfect. Twig connects his ult finally. Pandalite pushing forward. Ataraxia taking a lot of damage, but it's only one player left alive. Rapper has respawned, and actually Obey. This Titan's not going down as fast as they want.
Lawbringer in from
There's no way.
So gets Ataraxia.
No way they're gonna defend.
Revives him up. The Titan is beating on Obey. NRG are trying to hold.
They're gonna do it.
are gonna hold. And the boys of Obey turn it around. We continue. No! Double kill. Captain Twig. Deicide. Obey. But NRG's base remains.
But no minions. Twig, all the ults that he missed, it doesn't matter anymore. He finds 2 with 1 hovering death, but then no minions remain. Obey just, Ataraxia was so low and Emilito had just respawned. Ataraxia needed to stay around the backside. He tried for as long as he could, but just couldn't stay alive.
Is that a choke? Or is that just NRG being as good as they really are?
I think Obey hesitated for half a second at the start of that. They didn't seem to be fully committed onto the Titan. They actually were looking for kills instead of going for the win. Rapper's able to spawn. Emilito's there as well. Emilito got off so much damage, and then Rapper with the perfect Scarab's Blessing, just buying so much time.
I don't hate the call to try and kill Emilito there because it's a late game Chronos that's doing so much damage, but you have to commit to one call or the other. It seems like half of Obey was on the Titan while the other half was trying to kill Emilito. You got to pick one in that scenario.
Well, sit down, everyone. At least we got a little bit more time to play. Now, the Fire Giant is available, as mentioned earlier, but Variety looking for plays on his own. Adapting gets away from the crush just in time. With that hammer and the sigh from the silence, they were on their way.
Prime blinked there as well to try and follow up off of that Fearless, so Prime not going to have that extra mobility that we've seen him utilize to stay alive.
Adapting's Relic's still down right now, so NRG probably want to hold out on a fight until he can get that up. Adapting has been a centerpiece on the front line for NRG, and he's not going to be able to engage for at least another few seconds. Now that those are up, NRG can look to force something.
And now Variety is just being that thorn in the side that he's been all game long.
Jimmy's in a bit of trouble there, but the Eagles' rally was good. The overly death was not. Captain Twig misses again. And the monster rewind, boys. Yamin takes out Ataraxia, looks to get away. Rapper supports as Dimmy cleans up Captain Twig. Next on the list is Variety, but he'll Lawbringer away. The tree on the front side trying to protect Prime. Can't stop Emilito. And now Pandalite, he will fall too. NRG, NRG, NRG.
This is what you come to expect up against NRG. You make one mistake, you miss one skill shot, you make one step out of position, and they will make you pay.
Okay, Variety, it's your turn. You've got the whole armada on the front line. He's got to keep them busy. He juggles through.
Doing a good job.
He spins around. He tries to buy more, but the team don't care. NRG just don't care because it's the Titan that they want. It's the Titan they need. And with that, Obey with their closest chance of beating NRG. Fall.
What in the hell was that game? Late